Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack. Through this podcast, I'm on a mission to transform lives through primal adventure and to spread my mission of mentorship as conservation. This podcast is powered by Washington Backcountry, a resource for all hunters, both new and old. To find out more about Washington Backcountry, go to wabackcountry.com or search for Washington Backcountry on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. The Soulful Hunter Podcast is also proudly presented by the Crazy Elk Company. Based out of the state of Washington with products made in America, they are providing solutions with gear to problems you didn't even know you had. Their tag wallet is one of those solutions, and I had the pleasure of using it on all of my hunts this last year, and it is now a mainstay in my kill kit. The tag wallet is a water-resistant zippered pouch that comes with its own reusable zip ties to safely and securely store your notch tag for quick and easy access. For more information, go to crazyelkcompany.com and use the code SOULFUL with a capital S to save 20% at checkout. Be blessed, everyone, and as always, stay soulful. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by OnX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is OnX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, OnX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust OnX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about OnX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soulful Hunter Podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and I am joined by, man, how do I put this right now? I think I'm having a fanboy moment right now with one of my guests, Andrew Boetjer from GY6 Outdoors. Did I say that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Doggone it, man.
Boetjer is right. It's German. It's hard to pronounce.
You get put on the spot so often when you podcast. It's like...
No, you nailed it. You nailed it. Boetjer is the way to go. Everybody thinks it's French because it's got a TJ in it. They're like, is it Boetjer? Boetjer? And I'm like, no, it's Boetjer. Just like bow and a churro. Boetjer.
Perfect. Well, two things that I love. So,
Yeah. Yep. Archery, hunting, and churros, man. I'm down.
Dude, you got a bow in one hand, a churro, one of those Costco churros in the other. Like, you're set, man. Put a couple of those in your pockets.
Fat kid engaged all day.
Dude, my wife tells me all the time, and I'm definitely overweight right now. The dad bod is rocking way more than I'd prefer. But she's always like, you're like a fat person stuck in a like athletic body. She's like, good thing you like to exercise and run because you would be 400 pounds before you know it. So
that's the benefit of hunting, man. It keeps you moving.
It's beautiful. So all you listeners out there, if you've never heard the name Andrew Boetjer or GY6 Outdoors, you're in for a little treat because when you learn about Andrew and everything that he does and what he stands for and what he believes, which is true American patriotism, is freaking awesome. Getting all jacked right now. Yeah, America, let's go. When you find out about him and hear his story and hear his journey and what he does, you're going to be really, I would say, inspired and at the same time motivated to just go out and live your life. And I think that's one of the things that's really attracted me to Andrew over the years is this was probably 9 years ago, when I even started realizing that you could have an account on YouTube, I was like, oh, I can subscribe? Dude, I'm subscribing to this guy's channel. Bam. And I hit that bell right away. And for the longest time, he's been like one of the very first channels I ever subscribed to on YouTube. And it wasn't even about hunting at the time. It was
it's all guns.
Just guns and Second Amendment and freedom life. And so I was like, dude, I gotta learn about this guy more. And finally, I think I even wrote you an email back in the day, like before I knew how to get a hold of people on social media and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure I sent in a fanboy email. I was like, hey, man, like.
I'll apologize ahead of time, man. The amount of emails that come in, I get so bogged down. That's what's so great about social media is I can actually meet people face to face in a lot of ways because you can see what their life is like and what they're doing. And so when you get a direct message, it makes it more personal rather than just some blank, potentially spammy email that might be coming in. And sometimes those get caught in spam mail too. So I will apologize. I'm probably missing so many emails day to day that I don't even realize are coming in.
I will tell you this podcast is making up for it. So you are forgiven, big dog.
Appreciate it. Appreciate
I
it.
freaking love it. All right. So Andrew, so many questions. We're going to get into your story, but just real quick, where's life? Where are you, man?
I'm in Boise, Idaho now.
Boise, Idaho, the
Yeah.
PNW.
Yep.
It's beautiful up there.
Oh, it's stunning. I've lived in a lot of different states and moved around quite a bit. And I wouldn't say I stayed in one spot for too long, but just I like bouncing around. I love traveling. It's my favorite thing to do. It's the nectar of life. So, but this is by far my favorite spot. What I should say, this is Boise, Iowa. Everyone should move to Iowa. Don't move to Idaho. Idaho sucks ass. You want to go to Iowa. Go to Iowa.
Totally. I totally agree with you.
Too many people moving in.
Dude, I was living in the state of Washington until just until a month ago. And we looked at moving to Idaho so desperately. But the price of homes versus what I was going to get paid in different career fields, and I was like, it's just not going to work out. So went to the great state of Texas instead.
That's right. You moved not too long ago, didn't you?
Yep. So I've been in my house roughly about 1 month, and dude, Texas, it's hot and beautiful and full of freedom, and I love it.
Yeah. Well, you're hitting all the buttons for me because I moved here from Texas. So I was living in Austin, Texas for quite a few years, and then I had enough of the humidity. The humidity kicked my ass, and there was no mountains, so I'm like, I have to leave.
Yes.
My German blood was meant for the cold weather. It just doesn't set with me very well.
Yeah, you need that alpine, like those Sound of Music.
My whole viewpoint on it is you can always put on more clothes, but you can only get so naked.
Dude, okay.
I'm just saying.
I'm going to just say this right now, and not to go full on politics, but when I was in college, I had a roommate that was on the other side of the political spectrum from where I stand.
So the dark side. Yeah, I got you.
There you go. and we had heat wars all the time because I was like, dude, I can't take off any more clothes and have guests over and still have it be like, appropriate. Go put a sweater on. Go put a sweatshirt on. Go get slippers. Go get wool socks. Like whatever you need to do, man. And so that was a little bit of our life, the struggle, the college struggle, right? And you're like, I don't want to pay a heat bill. I don't even know I'm getting my rent paid.
100%.
So I love it. So Andrew, tell listeners, tell me, like, where the heck did you get the idea to start a YouTube channel on guns, and how did this all come to fruition?
Oh man, that story is insanely long, but I'll try to put it into a nutshell that's not too boring for people to listen to. But mainly, my dad's a Marine, former law enforcement. I've had a gun in my hand since I was 5 years old. I think the first time I shot a gun, I would think it was 5. I believe it was maybe even 4.5. But he handed me his Beretta 9mm at the time, and that was the first gun I pulled the trigger on as a 5-year-old, which is a decent. It felt like a cannon at the time. As a kid, you're like, what the hell am I holding? And I've seen my dad shoot it numerous times, so I'm like, this is going to get intense. Ended up pulling the trigger on that, and it's just been a snowball rolling downhill since then. I fell in love with guns. Getting into the whole idea of parents with children with guns. Coming from a perspective of shooting guns at a young age, and as a kid knowing very well where my dad's firearms were and what they were and what they did and the destruction they could cause and the protection they can also give you at a young age, it made it very simple to be safe. My dad always told me from day one, if you want to shoot my gun, if you want to see it, if you want to touch it, just let me know, but never touch it alone. And it made it easy because he didn't have to hide it. He didn't have to put it in lockup 24/7. He could have it available for personal protection. And it made it great. He did it just the way every parent should. Don't make it a mystery, make it known, treat your kids responsibly, responsible habits about firearms, and everything's going to be gravy. And I don't think I've ever had a desire when I was a kid to touch any of my father's guns when I was a child. And anytime I wanted to see him, he'd bring me into his room. We'd sit down and talk. He'd explain everything to me again and again and again ad nauseum. And I got addicted. So from there, years and years later, I kept shooting, kept doing things, got into shotguns, had a blast with that. All the while never being from a hunting family. I want to lead with that. I'm the first person in my entire family to ever hunt. As far back as I can remember. I have a few distant relatives that I actually just got a hold of within the last year that I didn't even know existed. And it's been pretty cool to see that they actually do hunt. So I can't say that any longer. But before that, I was the only person my family did. And I was kind of the black sheep when I wanted to get into hunting. And as far as the question you had with YouTube, I took my passion for firearms and my evolving passion of cinematography and photography to the next level. I wanted to branch the two together. I saw this new thing coming out, 14, 15 years ago, YouTube being a big thing where people can make some side money and have some fun with it. So I blended my passion for guns and cinematography into making videos and invested money I was making from a couple jobs I was doing at the time into buying new gear and took that gear out into the woods and decided to start shooting stuff and having a blast. And it just started rolling downhill from there. And I started to get a small fan base. I remember the day I got 100 subscribers, I was pumped. I was like, there's 100 people that want to watch my podunk ass from the mountains want to shoot stuff. I'm like, cool, I'm down. So it just gave me more drive. And honestly, fans are, I can't say thank you enough to the fans that are out there that like what I do, because it motivated me to keep at it. It motivated me to keep moving forward with new productions and advancing my quality of production. Obviously, it started with low budget cameras, small little handheld cell phone footage type deal, and the cell phones back then were dog crap. The original GoPros that filmed like 720p, it was awful. But it advanced from there, and a lot of those videos I've put on private or deleted because it just doesn't represent what I do now. It's a little too low quality, but I just kept reinvesting money. I worked 3 or 4 jobs at a time just to afford to keep up what I was doing, and it took a good 4 or 5 years of doing YouTube at the time to make any sort of income. Nowadays, it's prevalent. So when you start a YouTube channel, it can take off faster. But back then, the audience base was less than ideal. So you had to really keep pushing forward and reinvest money into buying new gear to advance your quality. And that's what I did. And then from there, just kept pushing forward, met up with a lot of different people in the industry, started doing pro bono work for companies to advertise their products. That was probably 5 or 6 years in. These companies see that the videos I'm putting out are actually driving attention to their product. And it allowed me to make relationships and allowed me to reinvest more money and so on and so forth. And now 13, 14 years later, I'm running one of the largest gun channels in the world on YouTube. And I remember you mentioned GY6 Outdoors, and that's kind of like my new thing. GY6 Outdoors is more hunting and outdoors equipment and camping gear, where GY6 Vids is like my main YouTube channel that does all gun stuff. So I try to separate the two because of the negativity towards firearms. I wanted to separate outdoor content from gun content. Didn't want to sink my own ship. So I have my GY6 Vids, which has got 840,000 followers plus. And then my outdoor content, GY6 Outdoors, is all my new stuff I'm venturing into now.
Man, that is...
So that's in a nutshell. I'm trying to keep it as simple as possible, not to bore the hell out of your audience.
Oh, give me a break, man. Come on. If they're not already searching on YouTube right now for your channels, then something's wrong, because I'll tell you, you're not going to be disappointed, all you listeners out there.
I appreciate
that. You said something that really caught my attention. You're talking about gun safety, right? And,
yeah.
And we live in a political world right now.
Yes, we do.
And, being a former school teacher, especially phys ed and health, as a health teacher, and, you are supposed to be teaching sex ed and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, why do I have to teach this? It's like, well, because the kids might not get it at home. And, if they're not educated, they're not going to be safe. And I'm like, then why are we not teaching gun safety?
Yeah.
Like, it should be one of the very first safety items that you teach.
Yeah.
Because it's the second one listed within our founding document, the Constitution. It's a major deal. So here you are. You spoke about your father not making it like a mystique.
Yep.
It was just, I'm attributing it to, like, you wanted to learn about a hammer, your dad showed you a hammer. Your dad showed you a screwdriver. Guns are tools. They do specific jobs. You don't always want one, you can't have a Phillips screwdriver when you need a flathead, and vice versa and all that. And so you have different calibers, different types, all this stuff. So you talking about that, super powerful. And me being a father of 3 boys, I have a gun hanging right here on my wall, and I got different guns in different locations. And I'm always like, okay, I need to make sure that they are safe, that the kids understand we're not playing toy. These aren't toys, all this stuff. And it's really fascinating to hear how it impacted you. I was never taught gun safety. Never. I did have a BB gun when I was young, and I used to. My brother still holds it over my head. Dude, he had an awesome, epic GI Joe collection, and
You shot every one of them.
I blew them all up.
That's perfect.
Yeah. He was like, I wanted to pass those down to my son, who his son is 8 years old. And I'm like, sorry, bro. They had to die.
Had to die. They were holding a gun. I was just doing defensive tactics.
Right. So here you are. You got, dude, 800,000 subscribers is phenomenal. That's not even phenomenal, because I know how hard it is to get subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah.
At what point were you like, holy smokes, this is actually happening?
The 100,000 mark was really huge. When I hit 100,000 subscribers, it was like, okay, this is something different. This is better than a lot of TV shows get on a weekly basis. And before the adpocalypse, which a lot of people on YouTube understand what that term means, adpocalypse was when YouTube really kicked in the anti-gun initiative, and they really restrict gun content now, where you can have 10 million, 20 million, whatever millions followers base, but if you don't get shown to those followers, you're not going to get views. So it's really rough. And when Adpocalypse happened, it went from like, I would post a video and I'd get 300,000 views in a week, but nowadays you post a gun video and you're lucky to get 30,000 before it gets throttled, because they stop showing it to your fans. They stop emailing your fans about new videos being posted by you because you make gun content. So it's a weird balancing act to figure out how to properly title videos and what to put in the videos and what you can or cannot put in the videos to make it actually reach the audience you want. And it's very difficult. And that's why I decided to kind of like take my skill set of videography and photography and move it into reviewing other gear as well, which I got into the outdoor industry for. And I wanted to make a supplemental income with that. That way, if worst case situation, YouTube decided to go on Big Brother and delete my channel, I'd still have an audience base to let them know what the hell's going on. But yeah, it was huge. When I hit 100,000 subscribers, I knew this was the thing that I wanted to do. And I remember vividly talking to friends and family saying, this is something I'm going to pursue. At the time, I was getting into law enforcement. I was about to get into academies to do certain law enforcement potential careers. I also was in college at the time and getting out of college at that point, because I decided a degree and what I wanted to do wasn't my field of expertise and wasn't something I wanted to do for life. And I took the risk of no longer pursuing college courses to pursue other passions, because I saw where that whole spectrum was going. You could have a degree in any field nowadays, but unless you have actual field knowledge, it's really hard to get a job. And doing what I was doing on YouTube, making money, it made more sense to follow that passion and that career, because I could always go back to college.
Yeah.
But you're only so young for so long, and it really does take energy to do what I do on YouTube and what many people do. It's a very difficult process to kind of keep the ball rolling and keep things moving. It takes a lot of energy, and a lot of people do it, but very few people do it right. A lot of people nowadays on YouTube are putting out clickbaity stuff, clickbaity videos, and they're putting half-ass quality into their content. And it drives me nuts, because I truly enjoy making quality content and entertaining content mixed with entertainment and knowledge, rather than just having knowledge-based videos, or rather than just having information or entertainment videos. I wanted my audience to be entertained and getting information all at the same time. And I took actually all of last year off. So whichever of your followers are actually checking out my YouTube channel for GY6 vids, there hasn't been really a video in almost a year, because I've taken a hiatus. I wanted to reset. I'm so passionate about hunting and so passionate about the outdoors. It overwhelmed me in a way that I wanted to go whole hog into it. Didn't want to be half-assed. And it allowed me to kind of reset my passion for cinematography and get away from all the drama in the industry and just get back to my roots. And after a year now, I'm fully recharged. I got probably 40, 50 videos lined up for filming. It's going to be nuts.
Let's go, baby. I can't
Hell
wait.
yeah.
Super excited.
Hell yeah.
Dude, a lot of questions. One of them that really perked my ears right there is the drama in the industry.
Oh, God.
What's it like? I mean, that's a big question, and obviously, speak on it how you want, but
Yeah.
you know, pe-
Yeah.
there's a lot of ignorance in this world. I'll say that.
There is. And I mean, I'll lead the next sentences with this. There are two types of people in the world. There's not race, there's not sexuality, there's not political spectrum. There's two types of people, and that's it. People got to wrap their head around it. There's good people and there's bad people. Period.
Yeah.
And all people. I don't care where you fall politically, because even if you don't agree with me politically, I know eventually if we talk long enough, you'll understand the benefits of pro Second Amendment, pro Constitution, pro freedom. Even if they're anti freedom, anti Constitution, anti gun, eventually they'll understand the viewpoint because it is just common sense, plain and simple. But with drama, there's just people out there that always like to stir the pot. There's people out there that always like to piss in everybody's Cheerios because they want something that they don't have. And I'm never going to name names. I hate trash talking people, but there's just people out there that you get in a room with them and they smile to your face and they want to be buddy buddy. And the next thing you know, they're talking trash behind your back and they're trying to erode what you do or whatever. And I just got tired of it. There's a lot of people that make YouTube channels out there and any other social platforms that just run their mouth rampantly to make themselves feel better than they are, to make other people feel diminished. And that's not what I'm about. And I got really burnt out with it because my inner, I don't know, I don't want to say warrior, but just the justice of making people that screw people over put in their place takes over sometimes. I'm like, you know what? There's nothing I can do. They're going to be dickheads if they want to be dickheads. If they want to do what they want to do, go your way, I go mine. We're both happy. But it was overwhelming to see how many people were faking it till they make it, and taking paychecks from gun companies and doing things that made them a talking head, all the while telling people that they were not paid for. They never got a gun for free. And I full well know they did. And so, which is fine. It's okay. I mean, I've taken paychecks from gun companies in the past. I've worked with gun companies all the time. And when you put out good quality content, high production value, it takes time and it takes money. And so you need those two things to make it happen. The difference is your personality and is your presence and are your words for sale? And mine never are. So when I work with companies and if they were to pay me for production costs to cover my production costs, if their gun sucks, I'm going to say it on camera. And it's literally in the contracts I make with these companies. It says no pulled punches for any negativity and no withheld glory. And it's in a highlighted underlined sentence in all my contracts with these companies. And a lot of these companies get very upset when you fulfill that promise. They send you they send you a gun, and I ask them 3 or 4 times, I'm like, is this gun ready for review? And they said, yeah, have at it. And I put it through the test, and next thing you know, it's having jams, malfunctions, failures to feed, failures to cycle. And I tell my audience that. And that leads me to saying why I call my channels GY6 Outdoors and GY6 Vids. Is got your six. G for got, Y for your, six for your back. So 12 is your front, six is your back. I wanted my audience to know no matter what I review, no matter what I do, you're going to get an honest opinion that I have your back with what I'm telling you. If it's dog crap if it's dog crap product, you're going to know. If it's fantastic, you're going to know. And these companies that are looking for a talking head sometimes don't like me for that. And I've had major situations in the past that I've had to deal with where these companies get very, very intense and downright into lawsuits. I can't mention any of those because I'm held underneath contracts to not say anything. But yeah, I've been in lawsuits in the past for companies screwing me over and reneging on deals and trying to make me look like a piece of shit. And it's been rough. So I took a year off, wanted to reset. Don't want to name names. Not looking to bash anybody. Just saying there's just people out there, as we all know, good and bad. And I just want to stick around the good people. And when I meet people like yourself, when they hit me up about podcasts and want to talk about good outdoor content, good gun content, I'm all about it.
Love it. Absolutely love it. It's a world. It's a crazy world. As Cat Stevens says, it's a wild world.
Yeah.
So let's
think of it like the Wizard of Oz. There's always somebody behind the curtain. Just remember that. No matter what you see, whether it's your favorite gun in the world, favorite product in the world, there's always somebody behind the curtain pulling the strings, and they're not always ideal people.
Yeah.
And that's where it's tough to kind of divide being, honest about the products and stay away from the people behind the scenes, because the product may be great, but the people behind it may not be great. And it's rough because I never want to support shitty people, and there's a lot of shitty people in the industry. But at the same time, I don't want to piss in someone's Cheerios. If the product works, that's what I'm there to review. I'm not there to review the character of the owners or the people behind the product or the people running the YouTube channels I'm dealing with. It's just, I want to do what I want to do, and if you don't agree with it, you go your way, I go mine. We're both happy.
Wasn't that the whole idea of America in the first place?
Yeah,
Right?
100%. Agreeing to disagree.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, man. Like, you don't like
100%.
it, you can get out. You don't.
And the pursuit of happiness is the one that people forget. It's the pursuit of happiness, not the guarantee.
Yeah.
And you got to get after it. You got to pursue it. And if you don't like where you're going, go your way and stay the hell away from the people you don't like.
No doubt. So this weekend, here's a story for you. I was in an HEB, a grocery store down here in Texas, and I have my 3 boys. We're in little race car shopping carts. Friday, I got a list from the wife, like groceries I got to get. And I walk in, and I'm wearing this tank top. It says back-to-back World War champs, big old American flag on it. And another dad shows up in like the exact same grocery cart with his 2 kids, little race cars. And I look at him, he looks at me, and he's wearing what I would imagine is a diaper bag, but at the same time, it's tactical. And there's like a little like med kit attached to it on the molly. Yeah. And I look at him and I say something to him, and we start shooting the breeze. And this kind of goes with finding your people and not being afraid. Courage.
Yeah.
Courage is the first known trait of any person. It's like, without courage, you're not going to be able to accomplish anything. And
Agreed.
So started up a conversation with this guy, and we just started shooting the breeze with our kids, blocking the produce aisle. And he actually ended up inviting me to a tactical pistol training, and did a lot of holster work Saturday morning. The next morning, he's like, dude, I think you'd like to come to this. And I was like, yes. So I've never done any like pistol holster training, self-defense classes, all this. I was blown away. It's like, dude, if every single American had an opportunity to just go through one class of gun control and the challenges that go with it, and how it's not as easy as it looks. And then here it is, this kid, this 22-year-old kid out in, what state was that? Kansas? No, it was the shooting that just happened at the mall.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
he did it from 40 yards away.
40 yards away. He put 8 out of 10 rounds in this guy from 40 yards away. That's not easy.
No, this is not. By far not easy.
With like a little Diamondback pistol also.
Yeah.
Something's like a little stubby.
Yeah, and it goes to show you, no matter what you carry, whether it's a Diamondback or a Glock or a SIG or whatever, as long as you're proficient with it, you get the job done. But I'd rather have something in my holster or pocket rather than nothing.
No.
So carry with what you're good with and stick with it.
Carry on, baby. I totally agree. It's mind-boggling. But then hearing that and going through this course, and I was like, oh man. So then you and I recording this podcast, like, dude, the timing. I don't believe in coincidences. Everything happens with purpose, and
100%.
And this conversation is happening in the perfect timing of this world for both of us. I truly believe.
Absolutely. No, I just got back from an Eberly stock event up in Idaho. There's a private ranch up there, the owner of Eberly Stock. You know who Eberly Stock is?
Oh, yeah.
The Eberly Stock Company.
Glenn, I'm big friends with Jana Waller, she's at Eberly Stock through and through. So
yeah, she was up there with the event as well. She's a good friend of mine. I've a lot of years and haven't seen her in years. And she was up at the event, and it was just it was a breath of fresh air to see her. She is truly one of the most down-to-earth, kind-hearted, humble people I've ever met. And she's such a badass.
Yeah.
I mean, she is honestly a true badass, and you would expect her to be bragging for all the stuff she's done, but she doesn't. She just sits and listens and talks, and it's just a pure sweetheart. But she was at the event, and we had a blast up there, and there was a bunch of great training with Seekins Precision, and Seekins was up there along with Hat Creek Training, and Hat Creek Training is just insane with their talent and what they do, and we're having a blast.
Was Matty Nelson there?
Yeah, absolutely.
Dude, isn't he just an absolute stud?
Oh, he's like, I think they make Red Bull energy drinks out of his blood. I'm just going to say, I'm going to put that on record.
Did he have his cowboy hat on?
Hell yeah, he did.
Yes.
He looks like Lord Raiden from Mortal Kombat.
Dude, he's so savage. I love on when he does the social media with Seekins, he's always like, Hey, I'm Matty Nelson, Siege
Yep.
Precision.
No, that guy, I was blown away. Matty was throughout the entire day for a couple days in a row. He was teaching multiple groups of people different things, and his energy level never dropped. It was the same amount, and it was honest energy. It wasn't this fake used car salesman energy. It was full on a person you can tell loves what they do and was able to articulate proper instruction very well to numerous different people, and everyone learned something from him and the Hat Creek training guys, and it was just fantastic. It was phenomenal to see the energy coming out of everybody involved, and truly a unique environment. And it's invite only, so I was honored to be there. It was really, really spectacular to be there.
Yeah, and man, quality people. I hung out at the Everly Stock booth at the Western Hunt Expo this February, and
Okay.
got to chat with a lot of those guys there. And then Matty, I've tried to get him on this podcast so many times. He's a cowboy. He's living
Yep.
that cowboy life, and it's hard to. Mamas don't let your babies grow up to be cowboys, right?
I'll send him a direct message, man. I'll see if I can coerce him to get on your podcast because he's a quality dude.
Dude, I drop him a line on a text message all the time, like, dude, hey, hey, hey. And I might, if I get a response back right away, I'll be like, sweet. And then sometimes it'll be like a week later, hey, man, sorry, just been really slammed. I'm like, well, Seekins Precision has been slammed forever. Like,
honestly, I don't blame him. I'm the same way, man. It's if you don't have time in your schedule, it just is what it is. You got things rolling, a lot of balls moving in the air, a lot of irons in the fire. It is what it is. But
yeah.
I'm sure he'll be on your podcast soon enough.
This cracks me up. I don't mean to segue off of what we were talking
No,
about.
you're good. That's what's great about podcasts. You get to ramble.
So, brother, tell me your hunting journey. Because this is one of the things that people who grow up hunting, I feel like a majority of people just take it for granted. They don't realize how special and sacred it is and how powerful it is. My mission of this podcast is that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. Your life is going to be transformed when you immerse yourself in everything that nature has to offer and the process and going through the steps. So talk me through this journey. Like, why all of a sudden were you like, lightning struck one day, I'm going to become a hunter? Or was it in your soul like me, where it's like, oh, dude, I gotta go. The mountains are calling,
Yeah, it was out of nowhere, actually. I've been an outdoorsman my whole life. My dad's had me in the outdoors since I was a kid. He's always been a person who loved to go backpack and hiking. Never hunted, wasn't a hunter, but he loved fishing, loved being outdoors, and he took me and my brother with him all the time. I actually have photos of me in his backpack when I was like 3 or 4 years old, and I like my head sticking out of the backpack, like, and it was great. I actually posted on social media. I was like, "This is how long I've been reviewing gear," because I'm sticking my head out of the backpack and enjoying it. He's literally stuffed me in his hiking backpack, and at the time it was from REI, some big ass clunky backpack. But yeah, I've been doing that since I was a kid. I've always been hiking. He took my brother and I on long hikes when we were 4 or 5 years old. And obviously, inevitably, we'd be coming back and he'd have to carry us because we'd be so damn tired. But been out there forever, and I loved fishing. Been fishing since I was a kid, and around my probably early 20s, it just hit me. Something's missing with the outdoors. Something's missing in my soul about what I'm doing in the outdoors. If you go back in history, men and women alike scoured nature in the country, not just to see things and not just to be blown away by the awe of it all, but to gather things and to hunt. It was survival, and I felt that in me. I felt something was missing every time I went in the outdoors, and it took quite a few years before I really can narrow it down to what it was. But I started working at a local sports store. I think it was Sportsman's Warehouse. I did some of that for a few years, and fantastic people there that they had years and years of history of hunting and the outdoorsman life and outdoor woman life, and got to pick people's brains about why they did it. And I was like, no, what? I'm gonna get into it. And obviously, as a kid, I always went out and shot lizards and hunted squirrels and did stuff with my Red Ryder BB gun and pellet guns, and I've always done that. But there's more to it. I wanted to learn the idea of respecting the animal I was hunting, not just hunting, but learning the passion behind hunting. Obviously, we all have grocery stores nowadays. We all have the ability, especially in the States, we all have ability to hunt or to get food when we want it. So we've lost the necessity of hunting. We've lost the desire to be taught at a young age to hunt because we don't technically, air quotes, need it. And I found that to be a huge flaw. So I started looking into it. Longer story short, I got into archery. I was doing archery at a younger age in my early 20s and saw all these people that have been doing it since they were 10. And I'm like, man, I'm so far behind the curve. I'm so screwed. And I was like, no, I'm just going to keep practicing. And, I'm a self-taught shooter in a lot of ways. I learned a lot from my dad, but for the most part, I've done a lot of studying from very wise individuals with the gun community to learn how to shoot properly, and to learn on the fly from people that are smarter than me in the field. So got into archery, learned from that, got into more hunting style shooting, learning the lay of the land, how thermals work, what to look for when you're in the field when you're hunting, not just on a gun range where everything's, static and still and perfect. And it tickled my fancy to learn more about it. So I got into it. And actually the first animal bigger than a squirrel that I ever killed was with a bow, and it was a jackrabbit. And
Just real
I
quick, what age were
yeah,
you? When was this?
I was 22, 23, right around there.
And how old are you now?
So I'm 35.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just wanted to give some context
No,
to
you're
your
good.
story.
No, you're good. 100%. 100%. So in my mind, I see myself as a super young kid because I was just learning all those things. So like in my mind, I feel like I was 5. Because I'm like, this is all new territory, all new to me. And for those that are listening and those that follow what you do and are listening to this podcast, if you're a person who's been hunting all your life and have had a family member that's been a hunter, it's hard to explain the feeling of learning how to hunt in your 20s because it's weird. It's like not even knowing that there's an ability to drive a car, and you find out, oh, you can drive a car. Holy shit! And like you want to go learn how to drive the car immediately, you know. And so like when I found out about hunting and I saw the idea of it and the passion behind it with a lot of true hunters out there that truly respect the animals they're hunting and not just killing things, but respecting what they're hunting, I was hooked. And so I got into it, got a bow, started practicing more and more, ended up killing a jackrabbit with my bow. And first arrow I ever sent was right through the head of this jackrabbit. And I thought it was a miss because it was so fast. And I didn't see the arrow and I didn't really know the mechanics of what to look for after a kill shot. And my arrow went straight through this jackrabbit's face and it didn't last long. It flopped around. And when I saw it flop and I was instantly like, oh shit, it's in pain. I fucked up. Pardon my language. I'm not sure what the PG rating of this
No,
podcast.
there's an explicit tag on this podcast. You're good
Okay,
to go.
perfect. I figure I'm talking to like-minded individuals. I'll let the words fly. But yeah, I saw it flop around. I'm like, oh man, I messed up bad. This poor thing's hurting. And I felt like shit. And I walk up on it and it's dead as a doornail. And it probably didn't feel much because it took everything in its brain pan out with the arrow. But it in that moment, it taught me how great it was to make a good shot, but also how horrible it could be if you're not paying attention and you land a bad shot. And it stuck with me. And I was like, no matter what I do from here on out, never let my pride be more important than the animal I'm hunting. And I'll say it again, never let your pride be more important than the animal you're hunting. And so many times now over the last 10 to 13 years that I've been hunting, I see people doing hunting things in order to impress other people and they lose focus on what the whole point is. You're not only gathering meat and you're not only, honing a skill, but you're also taking a life. You're taking something from another creature to be able to enjoy it and to take its energy through food. And if you lose focus on it, you're doing it just for Instagram or just for publicity or just to look cool or badass, you're doing it wrong. And I'm a firm believer, no matter what happens, know your distances, know where you're proficient with your bow, know where you're proficient with your gun, and don't push past that. No matter if it's the biggest animal you've ever seen in your category, never push past your abilities because all it takes is one bad trigger pull of your release or on a trigger on a gun, and you're going to be beating yourself up the rest of your life, wounding an animal that you could have taken a proper shot on just by taking a few more minutes. So it was a huge learning lesson for me in that one jackrabbit. Even though I made a good shot, because I wasn't certain meant that I wasn't ready for that shot. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's room
Like if I
for
were to,
doubt.
yes. And if you have room for doubt, don't take the shot. Take your time. It wasn't meant to be in that moment. There's going to be a better chance. And if there isn't, you're okay because you live in a world where you have a grocery store. So in the past, of course, send her. If you're starving, send that arrow, send that bullet. you're eventually going to catch up to it. And if it suffered, that sucks, but you need to eat. In today's world, we have grocery stores. We have the ability to get food. So hone your skills and respect the animal above all else before you take a shot. And it taught me a lesson that I've never let go of. And it makes me uh, kind of annoying to some hunters because I don't respect people lobbing rounds out to distances that they have to walk in. Unless you're hitting that first shot impact, you shouldn't have taken that shot, period.
Mm.
That all it takes is one animal to take one step forward, especially an elk. You take one step, you're looking at 3 or 4 feet off a target. You're hitting it in the ass, or you're hitting it in guts, or you're nicking its brisket or whatever. And now it's going to run off and die a painful, slow death. And I don't want any part of that. I'd rather have the true hunt. Get as close as you can, guarantee your shot. Obviously, there's always elements that could pop up to make the shot go bad, but do as best you possibly can to make sure you guarantee your shot's on point every time.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you on that at all. It's
Yeah.
I it's ethics is a very fine line that people walk because you have to identify what your ethic is.
Yeah.
There's legality and there's morality, and that doesn't mean it's the exact same thing.
Not at all.
Yeah. It's interesting. So here you go. You send an arrow through a jackrabbit's face, which, by the way, is no small feat in itself. So, were you aiming at its head?
I was aiming at its neck and chest, so therefore I hit higher than I wanted, and that's what dawned on me. I'm like, I technically missed, even though it killed it. I technically missed, and so I shouldn't have taken that shot until I was more comfortable with where the angle of the rabbit was at. And it goes into multiple different things as the years go on with hunting. I've been in numerous situations where I've had the animal I wanted to harvest, the animal I wanted to kill, and I didn't take the shot because I wasn't absolutely certain.
Mm.
And I've had past friends and current friends that tell me, send her, whatever, you'll find it. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do it. I rather know for certain when I pull that trigger, that animal's going to be down on the ground as fast as possible with little pain as possible, rather than risking it just to inflate my ego, knowing I tagged out. I'll eat tag soup 99% of the time, unless I'm starving to death, to make sure I have that animal down on the ground ethically and efficiently. And and that's my opinion. Obviously, I'm not pointing fingers at people. Everyone's got their own thing. But as far as my passion and my respect for animals goes, I want to make sure to always be certain about what I'm doing in the field. And in order to do that, I have to be proficient in what I'm doing. I can't half-ass it. I can't come in half asleep or freaking drunk from the night before and hungover walking into the woods. I respect it like a job. So when I go out there, I want to treat it as such. And so from the jackrabbit thing, a little side note, I actually took it home and I brought it up to my parents' house, which wasn't too far away, and skinned this thing out. And I was actually cooking the jackrabbit on my parents' barbecue when they came back. And that leads me into a whole other ball of wax. But like, my mom and dad were not hunters, and they wanted nothing to do with it.
They're like,
my dad
what is this?
Yeah, well, it looked like chicken to them, so they didn't know the difference. So I ended up just cooking it, and my mom came out and goes, "What are you cooking?" And I looked at her and I said, "Jackrabbit." And she starts laughing, thinking I'm full of shit. And I'm like, "No, literally a jackrabbit." And I hold up the pelt, I hold up all the fur from the jackrabbit, and she starts losing her mind. She goes, "Oh my God, what is that doing on my barbecue?" And I was like, "Sucks to suck, but you're gonna eat some of this." And she goes, "No, I'm not." And sure enough, she ended up being brave and ate some, and she thought it tasted just like chicken. It was fantastic. And jackrabbit's actually a darker red meat, and it's pretty difficult to cook, looking back on it. And I just put it low and slow on the barbecue and got it to got a proper temperature, and it tasted great, man. Covered it in barbecue sauce, and it was great.
I was gonna say, usually you crock pot rabbits.
100%. And looking back on it, I'm like, what the hell were you doing? But in my mind, I'm like, I thought chicken, I thought barbecue. Perfect, let's handle it.
I'm a man.
I looked up.
I'm a man. Yeah, we're gonna cue it up.
That's right. And it was delicious. I ate every bit of that thing. And a lot of people don't like jackrabbit, but that actually got me into my passion for always butchering and cooking my own food or my own game that I get. So every animal I've ever got in the field has been processed by me completely. So I've skinned it, I've butchered it, I've cut it all into chunks, put it into freezers, and then I cook it from there after I pull it out of the freezers. I want it to be from field to my plate, all from me.
Incredible.
And it saves me a ton of money. Yeah, it saves me a ton of time and money.
Dude, I'll tell you that both of those extremely important. There's been a few, let's see here. I've had one animal that I've shot and killed processed by a processor.
Yeah.
But that was because I was on a time crunch and the animal had to get out before I actually got out. I packed it out on horseback while my buddy still had a tag, and
Oh,
it was kind of a hot mess. It was sad, actually. I didn't really like it. However, it was great. But from that point on, yeah, there's something really to be said about your hands on your meat. And so, like, when you find a hair on your wild game meat and your spouse or significant other's like, oh, what is this? Be like, no, it's okay. Like,
it's okay.
I know what this is.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not some fat, sweaty guy's hair. This is from the animal. You're good. You're good. And fire kills all germs, so you're good.
Oh man, dude, it's
But
so.
no, yeah,
No,
I
go ahead.
actually had. No, I didn't mean to cut you off, but you reminded me. I did have one game animal I didn't process. That was an antelope in Wyoming, and it was a time crunch as well. We took it to a butcher shop, and I compared it to the meat I got off the animal I butchered myself, compared to the butcher shop meat that I got back, and it was 60% of the meat I had from my own animal. And they're obviously they got to mind their P's and Q's and get rid of the meat that might be spoiled or not quite right or whatever's happening in the butcher shop. But it was a considerable difference in meat quantity that I got back from my animal I processed compared to a butcher shop, because they're dealing with a ton of animals from hunting season. And I don't know the situation. I'm not blaming them, but they got to be smart and not make people sick. So they might have to throw away some meat that I otherwise would have put into stew meat or put into ground or whatever else. And I might be stripping bones completely where they might be just doing it half ass. So I don't know. But yeah, that was one animal that I did have processed and I was not impressed. The back straps were cut into like 2-inch strips rather than 4 to 6 inch strips. And I was very frustrated with it. So ever since then, like I was like, forget it. I don't care what happens. I'm processing my meat. I don't care what people say. And
Well,
I love doing it.
I mean, it goes beyond hunting, but it's like, don't let another man touch your meat, right? Like, just
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
your meat is sacred. Take care of
Wise
it.
words to live by.
Oh my gosh. Okay,
We're gonna get along just fine.
there we go. So, question: this is the very first time I've ever had someone say this to me in my short hunting career, but I've had a lot of people who have hunted an extended amount, and they always were like, "Well, antelope's not really my favorite meat." My neighbor, I just moved down here and live in a neighborhood, and my neighbor, he's like, "Dude, out of all the game animals, I only really like antelope," and
Yep.
I was like, "Really interesting." Can
Yep.
you talk about that at all? What do you think?
Absolutely. I think I've harvested over 9 antelope now, and I absolutely love it. I think it's my top four favorites. I think bear meat,
Yes.
elk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I'm so glad you said bear first.
Oh yeah, bear, black bear. I will just be specific. Black bear, elk, antelope, and let's see, either wild hog or kudu from South Africa.
Interesting.
So yeah, but I mean, antelope is in my top all the time because it's so fresh, it's so clean, it's a different type of flavor than other game meat. It tastes like I don't know. It's like comparing chicken to steak. You know, it just tastes like a different type of game meat, and I think it's because those animals are constantly eating sage, and I can almost taste a sagey flavor in the meat. It's weird, and the reason why a lot of people don't like antelope is they overcook it. They think I need to cook this. It's gamey. I don't want the gamey taste. But from what I've been able to tell, and I'm far from expert. I'll never call myself an expert because there's always something to learn. I'm going to be 90 years old one year, and I'm going to still call myself a novice because there's going to be someone else out there that knows more than me. I am far from that. And I want to make that very clear. I'm never going to consider myself an expert. I'm constantly evolving, constantly learning. But from what I can tell, from what all the animals I've gotten so far, antelope and all other game meat, if you cook it rare, if you cook it on the rarer side, the gaminess goes out the window. There is no, like, especially duck as well. If you cook duck like mallard rare, it is a million times better than overcooking duck. It's insane. I cook duck like sashimi almost. Like I just take duck, I fry it real quick, like 30 seconds on both sides, take it off the frying pan or the barbecue, and I cut it thin and I make a balsamic reduction. And I take each piece of duck and I dip it in the balsamic, and it is whew, it is some of the best steak type meat you can ever have in your life. But antelope's the same way. I do the exact same thing with antelope. I'll bring it. The number one thing to do is when you bring your antelope out of freezing, don't cook it when it's still freezer temperature, or not freezer obviously, but not refrigerator temperature. So bring it out, let it come to room temperature, especially if it's in a dry or a freezer bag, because you're not having any oxygen touch it. There's no issue with bacteria adding to the meat. It's just whatever's in the bag. Let it sit on the counter until it's fully room temperature. I let all my steaks, all my game meat on the leave on for almost 4 or 5 hours, no less.
Interesting.
So, and that's straight out of the refrigerator, not freezer. I'm talking out of the refrigerator 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah.
And some people panic. They go, "Oh my God, you're going to get sick." No, 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 no. For years, people have been eating meat that's been sitting out in the open air for hours before people cook it. And you just got to get used to it. And I haven't had a single issue with sickness, never had a single problem with stomach indigestion, nothing. And I just leave it on the counter 4 or 5 hours, make sure it's fully up to temperature. Obviously, that time changes depending on how hot it is. If it's 100 degrees in your house, then maybe an hour or two. But you want to bring it to room temperature, 60, 70 degrees. And as soon as it's done, I rub whatever seasoning I want on it. Depending upon the game meat, I'll let it sit out a little bit longer, let it absorb that flavor. But slap it onto the barbecue at extremely high heat. Do it to maybe 1 or 2 minutes on both sides. Bring it off until it's nice and crispy on the outside, and cut it like sashimi. And the inside's completely rare, but the flavor is through the roof. It's incredible with antelope.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
Mind is blown right now.
I'll
So
send you some videos of my antelope that I've done in the past. I have a few Instagram videos on my GY6 Outdoors Instagram page, and I will send you videos of what I did with not only mallard duck, but also antelope. And I mix it with that balsamic reduction and button mushrooms. And it's just, oh my
it's
God, I
primo.
love cooking.
So
I love cooking.
I've only ever had antelope one time, and that is
Okay.
when I had a student who learned that I like to hunt, and I learned that this she was an eighth grade girl, seventh grade girl, eighth grader, like a 13, 14-year-old girl, was like, yeah, my dad, he's gonna take me to Wyoming. We're gonna go hunt antelope. I was like, oh man, awesome. She ended up shooting one, and at that time, I was like, I've never had it. I asked her, I was like, would you mind if I tried some? Would you bring some meat for me? And so she brought me some meat, and I cooked it up, and I thought it was phenomenal.
Yeah.
I don't really know. I don't cook my meat any different way from one animal to another, except for black bear.
hmm
But at the end of the day, I was like, this is great. Like,
It's an extraordinary flavor.
yeah. So I'm about to go to Wyoming next fall. That's going to be my very first
Nice.
time hunting antelope. Yep.
Hell yeah.
Super excited for it.
I'm out there all the time. If you ever need help with areas to hunt, let me know.
I'm gonna take you up on that. Don't extend an offer that you're not willing for JMac to follow up on, because
Nope, 100%. When I say something, I'm going to do it, man. I don't renege on my sentences at all.
oh, I love it.
It is what it is. With antelope, I will state that one of the best things with, and I'm sure every hunter that's listening to this podcast will agree, the number one thing that you can do to make sure that all your game meat tastes better than it ever could have in the past is to make sure to strip that hide off as soon as possible. Get that hide off that animal as soon as you possibly can, because that heat and that fat layer and that hide will add so much gaminess to that meat. It's unbelievable. I had I shot three antelope within 4 hours. I'm not sure exact time, but I shot three antelope pretty quick period of time in the same afternoon. And one of the antelope was out in the sun about an hour and a half, 2 hours longer than the other antelope. And by the time I got to that animal and took the hide off, that particular meat was a little bit more gamey than the other antelope. And it was a doe, and so was another one of the doe that I got. I got two does and one buck, and one of the does was just a lot more gamey, and that was the doe that had the hide on it. If you can get that hide off and get that animal cool, you're going to have a much, much more pleasant dining experience with that meat.
Fascinating. So there's a guy, Jeremiah Doty from Field to Plate. You ever heard of his?
Yeah.
Okay. So he always he's like, don't be a typical hunter and cover your meat in Montreal seasoning. He's like,
Yes.
he's like, don't do what everyone does and just absolutely kill the wild game taste of your meats and cover it in Montreal. You agree?
I would agree, depending upon how the game was processed. If the game was processed badly and it had a hide on for a long time and it tastes like a shoe leather and a shitty foot, yeah, I would definitely say cover it as best you can. But if you're doing it right, you shouldn't have to add too much flavor to it. I'm a firm believer in GSP, garlic, salt, and pepper.
Yeah.
That's my jam. I'll sometimes put some like teriyaki sauce on certain things. I'll put some barbecue sauce on bear meat, but for the most part, I want to taste the game. I want to taste that animal's flavor. I don't want to taste Montreal. I want to taste that animal.
Cracks
That's
me
my
up.
gig.
I love it. So I've actually gotten to a point in my life where I don't even put pepper on my steaks anymore. It's just salt.
Really?
I'm just like,
Wow.
and I would say a heavy amount of salt because I'm a big sodium. I love sodium. It's horrible. but yeah, I just straight salt both sides and cook it in butter, and it's like, all right,
What type of salt you use?
whatever I have handy. But really, like my wife, I think she likes to go fancy Himalayan,
Oh yeah.
the pink
Oh,
salt.
yeah.
So
Oh, see, I'm a snob. I'll be the first person to tell people I am a food snob. If I can make it better and higher end, I will do it. But if something falls on the ground in the woods, I'll eat it off the dirt. I don't care. It's just, if I have the opportunity, I want the meat to taste as best as possible. And Himalayan sea salt is fantastic.
yeah, dude, it's an interesting concept. People are like so neat, especially when COVID hit, right? It's like, oh, hand sanitizer, clean, 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 like all this stuff. It's like, and at the end of the day, when we're out hunting, it's like, dude, your hands are disgusting, especially if you're eating some of your food from your animal while you're out in the field after
Yep.
you processed it. It's like there's only so much hands in a creek water and some rub down, maybe with some sand on it, that is really going to clean you out. And yet, we're not sick. We come home
Nope.
healthy. We're healthier than a majority of humanity.
Yeah, it's because humans are disgusting. Nature is pretty damn clean.
Yeah.
It really is, honestly. Like, I don't know how many times I've taken my hands that are covered in blood and guts, and I just stuffed them in the dirt, rubbed the dirt on it to get the blood off, and I was good.
Yeah.
I didn't care too much after that. I just didn't want sticky fingers, and I didn't want blood all over my gear. But yeah, but I mean, honestly, if you look at all the sicknesses and viruses and problems we're having, it's because of human excrement and problems with people's, overall cleanliness. And there's things that pop up because of the dirty aspect of human nature. It's not. I mean, nature in itself is pretty damn clean. Unless you gut shot an animal, then you understand how dirty it can get.
Yep. I have gut shot one animal in my career, and it was not a proud moment.
Which animal?
It was a doe, a black-tailed
Okay.
deer. Archery hunting. Oh, dude.
Oh,
Horrible.
it's intense.
Yes.
You learn really quick how to do the gutless method for skinning.
For the very first time, and this was probably like, I don't know, like my third big game animal I've ever shot at the time. I was ready to just never touch a bow ever again. I felt so sick to my stomach. And I'm gonna go graphic here because I mean it is a hunting podcast.
Go ahead. Go
ahead. After I shot it, it was still on its feet. It did its jump and it kind of, but it was within view, and I could see its intestines hanging out its side.
Woo.
And I was like,
yeah,
come on, man. I felt
like shit, didn't you?
Horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Yep.
Horrible.
Yeah. But that's good though. The minute you don't feel bad is the minute you shouldn't be hunting.
Yeah.
It's honest to God truth. Like it sucks, and I understand that situation. I've been around people that have gut shot animals, and I've nicked a few guts with my rifle with antelope. You have a quartering toward shot, and you're looking for double lung, and you end up hitting one lung and part of another lung, and it nicks that gut sac, and it sucks. But to have that full pass through and seeing intestines, that's got to be rough.
Oh, dude.
And
it was brutal. I ended up not pushing the deer. It ended up bedding down, and I was able to put a second arrow in it, and it died very quickly after that. But dude, it was one of those moments. I don't even know if I've ever shared this on this podcast before because it's that impactful. Where it's like, I don't know, some things I just want to keep to myself.
No, it's good because people. I mean, here's the thing. I'm not trying to say holier than thou. There's gonna be mistakes made. There's going to be problems made. You're going to have the bad shots. You're going to have issues. You're going to fuck up, but you got to learn from it. And if you're the person who doesn't care, then you have an issue. But if you feel that feeling you're talking about, you're a true hunter. You're a person who cares about the well-being of the animal you're hunting. Yeah, shit happens. Mistakes are made. You got to literally learn from it and move on. And you ended up finding the animal, you ended up killing it, so that's the end goal. And at the end of the day, you learn from it, and that's the best you can ask for.
Yeah.
At least you didn't lose. At least you didn't lose it. That would be the worst. You lose it, and even then, nothing goes to waste. And that's what I tell a lot of newer hunters getting into it that are newer than I am. And I tell them, even when stuff goes completely sideways, if that were to happen, you shoot a bad shot and the animal gets hit in the ass or hit in the intestines, and you never find it. Some other creature is enjoying your work. They're going to be like, "Thank God this guy messed up a shot, or this woman messed up a shot,
Yeah.
because now I'm feasting." So it's never a loss, but it is a shitty situation, and
Dude.
it's good that you feel bad about it because you honestly can learn from it.
Yeah, man.
And there's other people out there that I don't want anything to do with, that are literally all about just killing shit, and they just want to be known as a person who kills animals. And I'm like, that's not for me, man. Like, I don't see the pleasure in that. I want to have a relationship in that moment with that animal. It's very sacred to me, and that's obviously my own opinion. But there are people out there that just do not care where they send the shot, how they send the shot, if they're walking their rounds in from 800 yards out. As long as they make impact and they can track blood, even if it takes them 2 days and they don't get any meat, they're happy because they have the trophy. And I'm like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I can't stand it.
Yeah. Okay, so question for you is, you went on this journey of hunting, 22.
Yeah.
You had this hole, this gaping hole, that there was more to what you were supposed to be doing. You found hunting, you headshot a rabbit, you cook up chicken on the barbecue for your mom. You go on this journey, you do the gun thing and YouTubes and all this stuff. What has hunting done for you? Like you said the word soul, so like it's got to be something sacred to you. Explain that. Unpack that.
Man, so much to unpack. Hunting, when you do it right, teaches you so many things. I think one of the best things is patience. You learn that just because you're in a situation that seems crappy and downtrodden, and you're kind of up that creek without that paddle, and you're a lot of people can relate who are listening. You're in day 6, day 9, day 10 into a hunt, and you've seen nothing, and you're doing all the right things. You've prepared all the right ways, but you're still out there going, "Why am I such a dipshit? I can't find anything in the woods." You start playing mind games with yourself that you might be doing it wrong. But if you're patient enough and you keep true to the fundamentals of what hunting is and how to properly stalk an animal and look for an animal, the payout's there. And and it taught me a lot with a lot of things I do through the day to day. Certain moments, certain things that pop up in your life that make you want to beat your head against the car steering wheel, or your desk at your job, or that day to day grind. You're like, man, why can't I go be doing this right now? Just know that your efforts are going to pay off as long as you stay true to what you're doing and you're working your tail off and you're doing it right. The payout's going to be there eventually. It may be longer than you think, but the payout's going to be there. And that was a major thing I learned from hunting. I've already known that, but it just cemented it in my head, and it made it a kind of a tangible way of explaining what we do on a daily basis. Patience is a virtue. It really is something that it takes time to harness. It takes time to really, I wouldn't say be an expert at, because you're never an expert. Watch me in midday traffic. I'm never an expert at patience. I have the worst road rage in the world. I can't stand stupid drivers. But but hunting definitely does teach you patience, and it's something I take out of hunting constantly. And another thing would be enjoying the little things, enjoying the details of what you're doing, because you can get out there in the field, be hunting something, and you're so focused on getting that animal, you forget to remember the base camp, the people you're around, the things you're doing, the effort it took to get to that spot, the effort it took to learn the things at the moment to hunt these animals, and to see even just small flowers and small creatures that you're walking by. If you're too overzealous, you're going to walk right past that and maybe miss something that stands out. That's why I like hunting for morel mushrooms and looking and being a photographer when I'm out there hunting, because I'm always looking for cool shots to get. That sunset coming through the trees, you got that late evening mist or early morning mist, and the sun's blowing through the pine trees. That's next world level beautiful. And if you're too focused on task at hand, you can miss that.
Yeah.
So patience and the beauty and the art of enjoying the little things is something I really enjoy with hunting. But I would say number one, and I can tell this is hitting with you because you're smiling like nobody else's business. And I love seeing that. Um, I would say number one though, I'm a Christian. I'm a faith-based man. Jesus Christ is my savior. I couldn't state it enough. I would not be who I am today without God in my life. And when I'm in the woods, I feel more connected to him than I ever do in church. I'm hunting most of the time solo. I don't hunt with a lot of people because I love the secludedness of it, being out there by myself, collecting my thoughts and letting it really soak in and feed my soul. And so being in the woods and hunting, it's a task oriented thing. I'm putting in a lot of sweat and tears and effort for a purpose that gives out huge dividends with meat and enjoyment and memories. But it also allows me to sit back and cut away all the cell phone service, all the drama, all the social media, all the potentially horrible things that might be going on in your life at the time, and let you really just hunker down and truly talk to God and get back down to my roots with what makes me happiest.
Yeah.
And it feeds my soul, and that's where that soul part comes in.
Get it, baby. I love it. Well, there's the old hymn, Go Tell It on a Mountain, right?
Yeah,
Go tell
absolutely.
it on a
Tell it on the
mountain,
mountain. Get it, buddy.
over the hills and everywhere. Yeah.
Exactly. You're feeling me.
I
100%.
feel you, man.
100%.
Dude, that's awesome. And I agree. I agree 100% as well. The task at hand thing that you said, dude, it cracked me up because this is something that people they forget it. People have blinders on with the tunnel vision. Like, this is my task. I'm like robots, man. Humanity's become robots. So I'm going to tell you a little anecdote story from my teaching days. So I tell this story. I used to be I played college football and I coach high school football, and so I tell stories based off of sports a lot of times for my students, and so I tell this story about Jerry Rice and how down in San Francisco, the San Francisco 49ers practice facility was across the street from these buildings. And I always use the story Jerry Rice because people would know. Maybe the time has shifted. Maybe I need to change my.
No, he's the man though. His work ethic is second to none.
Yes. And so I was like, there was this fire, this building was on fire across the street from the San Francisco 49ers practice facility. And the fire was like on the second, third floor. And on the fourth floor, there was this lady going, help, help me, my baby. And everyone, like bystanders were standing and staring, and no one was helping. Obviously, I'm sure fire department was on their way and all this stuff, and nobody was doing anything. The fight or flight kicked in, and a lot of people were freezing, and they're like, oh, well, Jerry Rice, he's best hands in the league. He could make it happen. And so he just goes, and he's like, if it's going to be, it's up to me. And he goes sprinting, gets off the practice facility. The lady holds her baby. Somebody help me, catch my baby. And he's just sprinting. And all of a sudden she lets go, and wow, this little baby's just falling down, hoping that somebody's going to catch her baby. And right before the baby hits the ground, Jerry Rice dives out, catches this baby, and saves this baby. And everybody, all the bystanders are like, oh man, like just clapping, super proud of him. And he gets so excited that he puts the baby up in the air like it's a football, and he spikes the baby.
I knew that was going somewhere. I was like, wait a minute, I have not heard this story before, but this is going to go sideways.
The point is, don't lose focus of the task at hand. The whole point is like, know what you're doing and stay focused. Don't get caught up in all the BS of the world.
Oh my God, that's such a good point to make. That's a great analogy for it. Oh my, it reminds me, you remember that movie Naked Gun?
Yes.
Naked Gun 30, I think it was 33 and a third or 33 and a half, whatever it was. And O.J. Simpson was in that movie.
Yep.
And there's a scene where he catches this lady's baby and he starts dancing because he used to be a football player. He starts dancing like he's in the end zone, and he goes to spike it, and this lady runs in and is like, no, like grabs her baby from him. That's exactly what it reminds me of. It's
Yes.
so true though. You got to be in the moment. You get lost in it, and you lose track of what's important and what's the ideal situation. And man, I tell you what, it happens all the time in the outdoors.
Oh, all the time. By the
Yeah,
way, that's not a true story in case any listeners is.
yeah. Someone's gonna be like, "That's not real." I'm like, "No shit, Sherlock. Thank you." Yeah. You had me for a second though, because like you were so adamant about it. I'm like, there's no way I've not heard this story before. But
Dude,
as soon as he dove for it, I'm like, oh, here
when
it
I
goes.
told this to my 13 and 14-year-old students, they're just like, eyes are just wide open, be like, no way, you spiked the baby.
Dude, I'm the worst. I'm the most gullible person when it comes to listening to somebody. I'll be like, I will full bore agree and like fully think that there's so and so in the truth, and then there's certain points in the conversation I'm like, okay, I'm being messed with. All right, but yeah, I'm the worst, man. Because I honestly I love hearing people's stories, and there's sometimes where like I don't want to call bullshit, and there's other times where I'm like, okay, this is definitely bullshit.
So that was never meant to be a true story, but what it did do
No,
is
it's real. You said fact. I heard you. I heard you.
right.
I heard you say it.
It really brings
Real
in
story.
the concept of task at hand. Don't
Yeah,
lose
it really
focus
does.
of the task at hand. And I was like,
It really does.
dude,
Yeah, and being in the woods, man, there's so much to be seen other than hunting, and obviously there's people listening that don't believe in God and don't believe in faith, and that's fine. But I highly recommend you look into it because Jesus Christ, man, I tell you, the things I've seen and the things I've experienced in just 35 years, it's not possible without somebody, a higher being, and as somebody who's looking over us, and that's Jesus, in my opinion.
yeah.
And it's a fact in my mind, but I'm gonna say opinion for those that are not in agreement. But um, whenever I'm hunting, if I'm in a moment where I'm starting to kind of beat myself up and ask myself, am I doing it right or am I messing something up? I just tell myself this is not the time I'm supposed to get that animal. I'm going to keep pursuing, keep pushing on, keep doing what I'm supposed to be doing in the right way. And when God wants me to get an animal, He'll make that opportunity present. Just it's only up to me to have my ability meet that opportunity. And so when that opportunity arises, be fully capable of having the ability to take that animal properly.
Yeah. Be present. Be
Yep, be
present.
present. Be
Yes.
present.
Dude, you're my type of dude, Andrew. I'm telling you, man. Thank you for joining me for this episode.
Of
So,
course,
a
absolutely.
couple questions first,
Yeah.
and even before we talk about how people can find you and all that. Number one, I saw you post something on social media where it's like, I don't like to ever show the kill shot of my videos, or is it the grip and grin concept? What is it? Then and talk about
It's
that.
it's the kill shot. I know one day there's probably gonna be something that arises where I might capture on a GoPro or some sort of filming that's happening at the time, but I I've told myself years ago that that moment when you pull the trigger, whether it's the release of your arrow or release of your gun or the trigger of your gun, that is sacred in that moment for me. You know, unless you're doing the work with me, if you're hunting with me, if I'm hunting with you, if you know, if you're there in that situation, then yeah, you're going to be there to witness it as well. But most of the time, I solo hunt, and that is between me and the animal. I never want it to be done in a way where I'm shooting something, I'm killing something for publicity. I don't want that killing moment, that taking of a life, to be the celebrated aspect. The celebrated aspect, in my opinion, is the effort that was put in, the badassness of the animal that I'm hunting, the ability that this animal has lived for so long and not been killed by a predator, or a predator that's not been killed by another predator. That moment to me is so sacred. I don't want to publicize it in a way that's like a commercial advertisement. I'm 100% okay with filming a hunt, showing all the work going into it, the camaraderie, the fun, the stock, showing the animal as you're pursuing it, as you're about to get on target, even stopping the recording just as you're about to send the arrow or pull that trigger. But when you watch the animal collapse and tumble down a hill, or do whatever happens once its life has left its body, it's such a bittersweet thing for me. I'm always halfway between tears and excitement anytime it happens. I don't think there's a single time I've ever had a picture with an animal where I'm fully smiling, because I'm in between. I'm in between two worlds. You know, I'm happy that I got it done and got it done professionally, but I'm also completely sad that the animal's life was taken. But it's part of life. You know, it's the harsh reality. Life takes life. There's nothing in this world that survives without taking something else's life. You know, so just being respectful of the animal, and not making it an advertisement point, and not trying to be Billy Badass, be like, look what I killed. I'm like, at the end of the day, I want that between me and the person I'm hunting with, and me and the animal that I just harvested and killed.
Yeah, I love it. Through death brings life. That is,
Absolutely.
I mean, you say you're a believer. You know, it was through the death of Jesus that he gave up his life so that all of us can live. So
Absolutely, 100%.
yeah,
100%. Sacrifice builds all things, and it's. I'm honored to be able to hunt animals. I'm honored to be able to be out there and have the ability not only physically to hike mountains because I know one day I won't be able to, so I soak up every moment I can. I'm honored to be able to take the life of such amazing creatures. I know it's bittersweet, but at the end of the day, when we look at an animal and when it dies, the best way an animal can die is from a hunter, a proper hunter. When you're done right, an arrow or a bullet is going to be the fastest way most animals die. Outside of it, they're going to be dying of starvation from old age and they get picked off by a predator, or they die of just outright starvation in a miserable, lonely, sad, painful way. So we are doing a service, and it is important for the management of all their game to make sure to call and manage game properly. But once again, I stand by that original statement. Never let your pride be more important than the animal you're hunting. It's number one in my book.
wow, that's I love it. It's a great statement. I was actually just about to write that down, thinking, "Oh, this podcast might get that title for for this episode."
Well, I
um,
appreciate that.
yeah, what's the future hold for you from what you obviously can control because we never know what tomorrow is going to bring. But like, what do you want the GY6 outdoors and GY6 vids and even your hunting career? What do you see for yourself?
Man, I try not to look any further than a year down the road because God knows where it's going to be and God knows what's going to happen to me. And I do so much crazy things alone in the woods. I'm shocked I made it to 35, but but at the end of the day, I just want my future to hold true camaraderie with other people, to spread enjoyment of all things, not just guns, not just hunting, but life. There's so many good things in the world. And I hate to get on this whole world peace type of conversation. I'm not trying to be cliche, but there's so many positive things happening in the world, and all we seem to be focusing on are negativity, are negative aspects of social media, negative aspects of political spectrum, negative aspects of countries. But at the end of the day, we live in the best times, man. We got grocery stores, we got running water, we got flickable light switches. We don't want for anything, yet we find reasons to bitch about everything, and it bugs the hell out of me. So my goal is to be able to do things that are sought after by other people: shooting, hunting, living life, being a professional life liver, and to inspire other people to have that as their goal. Don't make your goal to make money. Don't make your goal to be a person who stacks dollars in their bank account, because at the end of the day, that's going to go away. Make your goal to be leaving an impression on other people. Make other people better by being around you. Don't be the humdrum person bitching about everything negative. Be positive. See the positive in all things that could be potentially negative,
Mm,
because that's the only thing we really leave behind. I can't leave behind my hunting memories to people. Yeah, you can film it, but you're not there. You don't feel it. I can't leave behind my memories and tactical abilities of what I do with shooting and firearms, because people got to learn that on their own. What you leave behind is the memories of what you put off on other people, what you bring out of other people. And are you a person who brings out negativity or positivity?
mm,
So that's my number one goal. But as far as business wise, which I think is your original question, um, I just want to keep literally finding new ways of learning new things in all my aspects of my work. Finding a way to being a better shooter, being better at personal protection and self protection, to teach that to other people. And if even if those little things save one life, if someone learns one thing about firearms control and firearms ability to maintain your firearm properly and to use it properly in certain situations, if that saves one person's life in an altercation, I've done my job. I'm happy as can be. I just
yeah.
hope I help more than that. And also to bring positivity towards firearms. There's such a negative connotation towards guns right now. I feel it is a duty to make sure I present myself to people that watch my videos in a way that shows me having fun, but also being safe and being educational in what I do.
Yeah.
And with hunting, just to constantly evolve, man. There are far wiser people out there than me, and far more intelligent hunters that have been doing it for far longer than me, that I tip my hat to and bow to when it comes to knowledge. And all I hope to do is just keep increasing my knowledge in that aspect.
I love it, man. Your first part is beautiful, right? I always like to say, either you're building people up or you're tearing them down.
Yeah,
You know,
100%.
our tongue is sharper than a two-edged sword, man. It has the power to give life or kill. And
Yeah, absolutely.
we got to be very careful on that. And at the same time, you can never outgive good. I love this concept of legacy, right? It's, Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you want to see in the world.
Correct.
Stop focusing on all this, crap. It's like live the life is now. Get it.
Yep.
Get it.
Yeah.
Oh, brother, this could be like a 4-hour podcast. We could go Joe Rogan style because there's so much. You are just hitting all my hot buttons for why I even started this podcast. So thank you
We
very
can do it
much.
again, man. We can do it again wherever you want to.
I really appreciate
There's
it.
endless stories with my firearms background, with YouTube channel stuff, and the things I've been through. We were talking about that full auto 22 that you watched, the first video of mine that you watched years ago. Yeah, that was a blast. There's endless stories behind the scenes that never get seen by people and have never been heard. So there's plenty of things to talk about.
Well, we're gonna have to get that up for a second edition. Andrew, where can people follow you if they aren't already?
They can follow me on YouTube at GY6 vids. That's just letter G, letter Y, number 6, and VIDS. That's the YouTube channel. That's the one that's all gun based. I've been on hiatus for a year, so bear with me. More videos are coming this year. The second half of the year is going to be, the last quarter especially, is going to start ramping up. And then also on YouTube at GY6 Outdoors. That channel is still in baby stages. I'm just slowly getting an audience built and then going into more hunting from there. Obviously not, as we talked about, not showing kill shots, but maybe showing the hunt itself in entirety, cutting away at that last moment of what's close to my vest. And then on social media, I mainly do just Instagram. I'm not a fan of Facebook and I'm not a fan of Twitter. I have those accounts, and so they can follow me on there if they want to, but I just not a fan of Twitter and Facebook. But Instagram, follow me at GY6 Outdoors and at Andrew Boetjer on Instagram. Andrew Boetjer, I'm sure you'll have it on the podcast title. You can know how to spell the name, but it's Andrew_Boetjer. They can find me there. It's a private account.
And I'll also I'll make sure to add that into the show notes as well, so people can take a look at that as well. Guys, thank you so much. Andrew, thank you so much for joining me on the episode, brother. Dude, you have officially been a guest on the Soulful Hunter podcast, man. You can check that off your list.
I am honored. I'm honored to be on here, buddy.
I love it. Well, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. If you love this episode, please like it, share it, subscribe, all of that good stuff. It helps promote everything that we're doing here. Remember that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure. You cannot outgive good. And as always, mentorship is conservation. Be blessed, everybody. I'm Johnny Mac. Freedom on, and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast, I'd love it if you could go ahead and give this a rating as well as subscribe. Also, you can check us out on Instagram under the Soulful Hunter Podcast. Make sure to tag us in pictures and posts and use the hashtag Soulful Hunter. To find out more about the Soulful Hunter Podcast, go to soulfulhunter.com and be sure to follow the podcast, as we are going to be bringing you a lot of great information, insight, and changing lives through primal adventure. I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. Stay tuned and stay soulful. What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Johnny Mac here. Just wanted to give you a heads up that if you are looking for a community that is open to discussion as far as mentorship, conservation, the wild, becoming a better person, and all of that, there is a group for you on Facebook, and it is called Soul Seekers. Soul Seekers, we are all about making ourselves a better person. We're all about making sure hunting lasts for generations to come and encouraging people to get plugged in. Whether you are someone who has something to give or someone who needs to soak it up like a sponge, this is a community for you, and I strongly encourage you that if you're on Facebook to join Soul Seekers, and if you're not on Facebook, hop on there just for that group. It is only going to be as powerful as we all make it. And so just remember that life happens for you, it doesn't happen to you, and that you can't outgive good. You can't outgive good, people. I want you to understand that, and I want you to believe it, because when we believe that and we lead with courage and we lead with intention, lives are changed. Lives are transformed, just like on this podcast, transformation through primal adventure. Be blessed. Enjoy this episode. Talk soon.